Hello and welcome. Today I'll be showing you guys 5 different garden layout ideas for your vrising castle. Recently I asked you guys, what parts of your vrising castle would you like some decorating ideas for? And most of you said gardens, so here we are. Before we get started, I just want to mention that I've also made some other guides on various different castle decorating topics, so if you haven't seen them yet, I highly recommend checking them out. I'll link the playlist here and at the end of this video. Alright, let's get started. So for example number 1, I haven't quite decided what I want to do here yet, so we're going to do something here on the fly. I think I'm going to go with the verdant garden gate. I really like this particular gate, but I think I'm also going to create some exits and things like that, so let's make sure that we have the right outside shape here.
This will not work.
We're going to pretend that this is part of a larger plot, right? And as we do that, I'm also going to make sure that my fencing is symmetrical. So far, so good. And we're going to put another fence right in front of here. So for this example, we're going to be using a fence. Now, all the grassy area is basically my workspace. I can't go out of it for these examples. For this example, we're not going to use very much shrubbery. And I know that seems kind of weird considering, well, it's a garden, right? So instead, I'm going to show a little bit of furniture, do a little bit of modest lighting, and we're going to see if we can make a nice, beautiful, cozy area that isn't too far out from the front of the building. So we're going to do a little bit of symmetry here. We're going to put our garden benches on each side, and I think I'll also add a third bench here in the center. I think I'm going to try out the lampposts for this example. I'm going to get the Paragon garden lampposts, and we're going to put these right on the corners. All right, and now that that's done, I'm going to also start planting some trees. So I'm going to put my tree right over here, and we're going to put a second one right over here. Now, the reason why I'm having these trees be a little bit off center is because I don't want them to be too close to the garden bench so that you're not able to like exit and enter the garden bench, obviously. I think for this example, I'm going to use some apple trees. So I'm going to give myself some apple tree saplings, and we're going to place them here. Just place a couple. And I'm also going to maybe work on the outside of this building. So maybe for the walls, let's pretend that, you know, we have our wallpapers and our windows and things like that. I'm going to put this kind of window so that it matches this gate a little bit. And then I'm also going for the wallpapers to maybe go with a, you know what, let's go with a plain stone outside. All right. That way it matches, you know, kind of the stone of these, of this garden, if that makes sense. All right, now that I've planted my trees, my next step will be to create a couple of pathways. I think I'm going to go with the, let's go with the gravel pathing here. I'm going to put my first gravel path in front of this gate. Make sure it's connected. I'm going to do the same exact thing on the other side here. And now that that's done, I'm going to kind of keep this other area looking a little bit different. So I'm going to change the flooring. I think a little foundation area might be okay. Right now, this castle is actually in Northern Silverlight. I should probably mention that. So I probably want to match that aesthetic. So I'm going to go with maybe a cobblestone flooring or something like that. But I'm not going to cover the whole garden with it, just a couple of areas. So in this case, I'm just going to place it here. I think I'm just going to keep the center with this pathing to look a certain way. And I'm also going to not put another pathway through here. So the only pathways we're seeing are the ones here, and then a subtle hint at a pathway here. We could use a few of these rural trellises. I like the rural one and the noble one as well, but I think the noble one doesn't really fit well against this fence. So I'm going to go with the rural one just for my own personal preference. I'm going to put another one here, just kind of mirroring that. And then I'm also going to choose what kind of plant I want there. And I think in this case, I'm going to use the morass one. We're going to put those there, and maybe we'll add a couple of shrooms underneath. So because we are using tiles that are grass tiles, we don't have to use the growing plots that are, you know, like these small ones. We can use the exterior growing plots. So for this example, I'm just going to put a couple of exterior growing plots right underneath here. I'm just going to tuck them both in right underneath so that you can't even see them. And as long as I put them in the perfect spot, it'll grow right through. I'm going to give myself some... Let's go with Hell's Clarion spores, why not? And we're going to place them here, and here, and here, and here. I like the way that this is laid out, but it still feels like it's missing something. I feel like I'm potentially missing out here on something. So I think what I might do is I might add maybe a small water fountain. So let's go to garden, then garden structures, and then we're gonna go for this alabaster small fountain, and we're gonna put it right there. I'm gonna make time pass by, and we're gonna speed up the growing process for these trees so that I have a better idea of what they'll look like. We have our apple trees, we have our fountain. Now it looks a little simple, right? Maybe we want to add a little bit of spice to it. So maybe a dash of color. So maybe something like some sunflowers, for example. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to production, growing plots, and then exterior growing plots, because remember we have our grass tiles, and that's the advantage of using the grass tiles outside, is that you're able to place things. Because notice if I try to place it here, it's not going to let me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and fit a plant on every part of this shape here, and we're going to do the same exact thing. We're going to mirror it over on this side, and then we're going to put down some sunflowers. So I'm going to get some seeds. All right, and what's really important is the direction that these plants are facing. It actually matters. At least my understanding is that the sunflowers are supposed to be facing in the direction of the sun. Now, obviously, we're vampires. We don't care about the sun. We don't like the sun. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of place it how I want. I think this first area right here might be good for, you know, my initial startup. So I'm going to have this one here, and I'm going to turn it slightly. So I'm kind of playing with it a little bit. I think those two are fine how they are, but these two are going to be facing inward. Now I'm going to place the inward ones up front like this again, but then we're going to rotate 1 and 2 so that we have a little bit of symmetry and that the flowers are going to be facing very specific directions. Now let's add some time, go forward in time. All right, so now we have our sunflowers, and notice that the way that the sunflowers are kind of facing, they're kind of going outward, and they're always facing you as you walk past. I think this is a really, really nice, simple setup here. Nothing too wild, nothing too crazy for this example. So yeah, I think for anyone who is maybe just starting out, maybe wants something that is nice but not too crazy, this might be a really good first start. Now there is a little bit of a section here that I think is a little bit empty, and I'd like to add something. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my garden, then garden structures, and I'm going to add a couple of bird baths. So I'm going to add one right here, and then another one right here. I'm going to add a couple of little planters here. Let's go with a noble planter with decorative cage. And then instead of using one of these planter parts, we're going to add our own plants. So I'm going to go to production, growing plots. Now remember, we're using a stone tile here, so we're going to have to go with the small growing plots, and we're going to have a little area peeking through here underneath our vases. But you know what? You can barely tell. Let's be real, like walking through here, it kind of blends in with the ground. You can barely tell anyway. Now I've already given myself some blood rose seeds, so I think I'm going to use those. And I'm going to put some here and here, and then I'm going to rotate it twice, put them here and here. That way these are all mirroring each other, and we're gonna speed up time and see what it looks like. All right, so now it's all grown in and it's looking really nice. We have our nice little shroomies, we have our nice little sunflower seeds. I think as a basic first starting out kind of garden, this is probably very simple and easy to follow. So hopefully you guys are able to use something like this for a simple garden. Yeah, so as you can see, we didn't do anything too crazy. We didn't use any hedges. So if you don't like hedges, this might be the build for you. Let's move on to example number 2. We're gonna try this area here. Let's pretend that the building has one big entrance in the front, and then maybe, you know, the sides of the walls are just, you know, there's no windows or anything like that. So we're gonna work around that, and we're gonna use that to our advantage. So in our case, we're going to take our hedges. We're going to use hedges for this one. Now, something that's really cool that a lot of people don't know, really simple though, is that if you take your hedges, right, you can actually put them halfway off the line. So you can actually push your hedges halfway off the property line, which is kind of crazy because I don't think you can do this with many other garden furniture items and things like that. Like, I think the only ones you can do that with are with hedges, actually. So a little fun fact I thought you guys might want to know. But yeah, that's really cool. We're gonna place our hedges here. The cool thing about having hedges in that way is that you can take the hedges and use them to block out areas that are maybe not as visibly appealing. So you notice we have kind of like this harsh transition between you know, a floor and, you know, grass. So using something like this can definitely make the two sections look a lot better. And of course, we're over in the Silverlight area, so we're going to use this autumn fall looking kind of coloring. And we're going to use a different kind of hedge here. So I'm going to grab an arch, and we're going to add this arch hedge right over here. And now that it is included, we have a really nice start to our build. So the next part, I'm going to just take another one of these hedges and we're going to plop it over here. And now the challenge is that if we take our hedges and we put them on the sides here, notice we can't actually, you know, fit another one that goes right into that piece. So we're going to have to kind of adjust a little bit here so that our hedges can do a 90-degree angle. Now, notice, like I said earlier, the hedge can go a little bit off the property line, and we have here the same exact example. So we just have to make sure that no matter where we're placing these hedges, they're always connecting in a way that is going to work out. So what I recommend doing is placing hedges on a corner rather than against the wall against your castle. I mean, you can place it against the wall against your castle, sure, but it's going to be a lot harder to make certain that it's in the correct position. So we're going to start off by getting our corner all set up first, and then I'm going to put down my archway, and then we're going to put down another one of these tall hedges. So we're going to actually box ourselves in for this particular example. We're going to kind of create a nice little perimeter here of this autumny looking fall archway kind of garden piece, I guess you could say. I really like this shape, so I think I'm going to keep going. All right, here we go. So now if we look at it from the sky, we've basically boxed ourselves in. Nothing too fancy, nothing too crazy, right? Now we can come up with a plan here. We can either create different sections of the garden, or we can do something where there's like one grand piece and everything is built around it. So I think in this case, I'm going to go with the grand piece. And for this piece, I'm going to use garden structures. And then I'm going to go to the Imperious Large Fountain Now, this is a little bit tricky because I don't really have any visual guides, right, to know if my garden or my fountain is in the right place. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to change the flooring. I think this pattern right here, like the alchemy pattern here, might be a good one. Yeah, there we go. Because each one you can easily, you know, see the center. So something where you can easily see the center is probably best. So we're going to go to garden, garden structures, Imperious large fountain, and then we're going to figure out how to place this directly where it needs to go. So the idea is to get the same space between the top diamonds and the bottom diamonds. I think this is probably it. I don't like the way that it's angled though, so I'm going to adjust it. There we go. So now this looks way better. Very, very nice, very grand, right? And then we're going to take the flooring and bring it back to the garden. So now that we know we've measured it, we know the fountain's in the right place, we can keep going and start building around it. So the next step is to maybe figure out what kinds of furniture we want to use in this garden, what kind of aesthetic we want to go for. So I think for this example, we're going to try and maybe clean up these hedges here and maybe add some corners so that these little pieces here don't, you know, spit out and have nothing to basically hide it, right? So we're going to go to hedges, then we're going to go to garden hedge square columns. Maybe we're going to look at round columns instead. I gotta have to think about it a little bit. We could go with the square columns. We could go with the round columns. I think maybe the round columns might be a little bit better for today and what I feel right now in this moment. So I'm gonna go with the round columns, but you can choose whatever columns you want. And then we're going to go around and we're gonna make our connections. Notice I am being silly here. I thought I changed the color before I started doing this, but apparently not. Well, actually, you know what we could do? We could leave these hedges in a way that, you know, you can just, you know, have different colors. I mean, you can. I've done that before where I've had hedges be different colors, like in between. But for this example, I'm not going to actually do that. But what I think I will do is I'll remove this because I want to have a garden wall that maybe only has these squiggly things on the corners. So anything that is like a weird corner or patch or something that connects to an angle, that's going to have the squigglies, and then maybe we can have something else on the other pieces. So I'm thinking maybe something like this. We can use these here for the doorways. There we go. So now our doorways are looking cool. Our angles are looking good. And I think we're ready for the next step. So for this next step, I'm going to actually remove these pieces. Instead, I'm going to create a double archway, actually. And we're going to have a little double archway here, and that's going to be leading into the garden and to the entrance. So we could put some pathing here. We could do a bunch of other things. I think I'm going to start off by going with a cobblestone. Let's go with the garden cobblestone paving. Sorry about that. I'm going to rotate and we're going to go right over here. Now, for this, I'm not going to go in here. I know the temptation is high, guys. I understand. Where you want to put in an angle here, you want to put the whole, you know, pathway kind of going through, or like having every single angle and every single thing. I understand the temptation. That is not what we're doing, though. We're doing something a little bit different. So I'm going to put that here. Now I'm going to do the same thing for this one. We're going to add our corners, and then we're going to face them out. I'm gonna put my, well, actually, I'm gonna use another corner. Then I'm also going to have my T shape here, and then we're going to put our corner here. and we're going to connect in this way. So notice that everything is aligning perfectly. We don't have any like weird corners and stuff, and that's why I always start with the doorway, and that's why it was so important that I had my hedges in the correct position. Otherwise this would not work. So, you know, it's little things like that that can save you a lot of time, especially when you're building your garden. And admittedly, gardens for me have not been the easiest thing to create. I've had a very hard time making, you know, gardens that I could be proud of, gardens that I really liked, things like that. So I completely understand, you know, why people would want to see a tutorial on that. Now I was thinking I could leave this in between, right? Like we could leave these pathways alone, or I could connect them here, right? So most people would probably connect it just to make it like a perfect square or a rectangle, and I think I'm gonna do the same. I think I'm gonna go with that idea. So let's try and do our connections here. And we have a perfectly symmetrical rectangle. Now, for this part, we're going to actually add more hedges, more planters, and things like that. So I like these little horsey equine sculptures. They're so cute. I love them so much. They bring me great joy. So I'm going to put them down. I'm going to place them, maybe one over here. Well, actually, no. I'm going to place one here, facing this way, and then I'm going to place the other one here facing that away. So now we have our horses facing away from the fountain. Now we're creating a little bit of a visual trick here. So if we were to face them inward, right, it kind of draws attention to the fountain, right? Like it just kind of makes your eyes kind of look to it, which is totally fine. But even though we have the fountain here and it can be the showcase, I think it's a little unnecessary, maybe even overkill to do that, because the first thing you see when you walk in is going to be this big fountain, right? So we're just going to kind of have our horses here. We're gonna put I think maybe another horsey right here, and then we're gonna put another one over here, and that way, you know, they have friends. So we're gonna have our statues, or sorry, we're gonna have our hedges kind of facing away from the fountain. Now the cool thing is that when you come from the far side, it looks like you can immediately see the 4 horses, right? Like you see all the horses here. I mean, it's really neat. And if you really wanted to, you can make them all different colors and do all types of crazy stuff, but we're not going to do anything like that right now. It's just something I thought was worth mentioning. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to have some trees and maybe more shrubbery. So what we're going to do is we're going to place our garden. We're going to go to garden, then hedges, and then we're going to get some low hedges. Now, the low hedges I'm going to use to kind of nest mini gardens inside. Now, having little mini gardens can be really cool, or what we can do is we can place maybe a little sitting area or something inside. But you know, for this example, we're just going to kind of keep everything together, and we're going to close out the corners here. All right, and of course we have a little corner here that might need a little bit of a touch up. So we're gonna go back, we're gonna go to garden hedge around columns, we're gonna go to the short ones, and we're going to choose our little, I'm thinking maybe some of the squiggly ones. I like the squiggly ones a lot, but the thing is they make it look really tall. So like if I put it like next to this, obviously it doesn't look that tall, right? But I think maybe something small like this might be a little bit more appropriate so that it's not so high up and we can just enjoy it. You know what's really interesting though that I just realized is that even though we have ones with like a flat top that are tall, we do not have short ones with a flat top. So I don't know why that is, and I just noticed that, but please add that in, devs, please. Same thing with the square one. It looks like we have ones that we can't have a flat top, only just the tall ones. So I don't know why that is, but yeah, we need a little bit of more, just a tiny bit more. All right. I'm gonna add some large growing plots. Now we're gonna have a tree growing right over here. I think I'm going to squeeze my tree in the very corner. We could also squeeze one here in the very corner, but the one downside of doing this is that your tree will penetrate through the wall here, so it's kind of like a stylistic choice. I could do that, or I can just maybe move it over a little bit. Either way, our tree is probably going to be crossing in, so I don't know. That's more of a personal choice. I think I could put the tree here or here if I really wanted to. We have quite a bit of options here, especially because we haven't done anything crazy. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my trees here. So I'm going to put a tree there and maybe a tree there. And then we're going to put another couple trees on this side to mirror it. So I'm going to put one tree over here and one tree over here. Now that that's done, I'm going to look inside here and kind of determine what I want to do. I think I'm going to also put trees growing through here, but I'm going to use different kinds of trees as I do this process. So the first tree will be here, then here, then here, then here, and then here. So now we have our little trees, and in here, don't worry, I will make sure that this is covered up. So what we're going to do, we're going to add our little medium growing plot here, and we're gonna squeeze it right in, and that's just enough space. We can also put in some more growing plots. We can do maybe something that's a little bit more organized here. I'm just going to be using the large growing plots for time's sake, but normally I would put in every single individual one, just because I like to have that uniform look where they're not all like connected together. But for this example, I'm not going to do that. Just a side note, that's all I wanted to mention. Next, I'm also going to add some garden furniture. So we're going to go to garden furniture, and then we're going to go to the noble garden bench, and we're going to put a garden bench right here. And we're also going to add another one here on this side. All right, so looking good. We can also add a couple of trees if we wanted to. So I could put another tree back here and another tree back here. And I think I have an idea of what I want to do for those. And remember, you can use different kinds of trees, so not everything has to look exactly the same, right? So I'm thinking what I could do is also maybe use some cypress tree saplings. So let's get some cypress trees in here. So the cool thing about the cypress trees is that they all kind of look the same no matter what direction you place them in. So that's probably the easiest tree to plant. I think some autumn birch saplings might be kind of cool. So let's do some autumn birch. And we're going to place our trees here and here. Then I'm going to rotate twice and then place them here and here. That way they're mirroring. One of my favorite trees to use is the oak tree. So I'm going to give myself some oak saplings. Actually, you know what? Let's give myself a couple of acorns. So we're going to get our acorn. I'm going to put this maybe here. There we go. So we're going to place one tree here.
This will not work.
Okay, so it looks like the noble garden bench is actually blocking the placement of this tree, which is kind of nuts because it doesn't look like it would block. So instead, I'm going to move this here. We're going to move the benches. That's a shame, but it's okay. There's always a solution. So we're going to move our benches over. We're going to put our tree here. We're going to rotate it twice and then put the other tree here. Oh, and it looks like I did not place this correctly. So I'm going to rotate this twice. There we go. So now we have our oak saplings planted. We have our autumn birch, and then we have our cypress trees. Now, next, we're going to have to figure out what kind of flower do we want to line this area with, and what kind of flower do we want inside of these. So I think what we can do is we can try and add well, since these are going to be more of a visual thing, we can try and add something like these medium growing plots that are a bit elevated. So I could put something like this here and then maybe have a couple of trees if I really wanted to, kind of, you know, giving myself a little bit of a visual or visually interesting outcome. And we're gonna put another one of these medium growing plots. Actually, I might use a different color. Yeah, you know what? Let's go with this color instead. So I'm gonna take this one out, and I'm gonna use the medium growing plot. These two are both called medium growing plots, but they're like different colors. So I'm gonna use the one that looks more stony, if that makes sense. And then I'm going to add a couple more of the acorns down. So we're gonna put down a couple of oak saplings here. So in this case, we're going to rotate once, and then rotate twice, so that the trees are growing in the direction that we prefer. And then in this medium spot here, we're gonna plant a few seeds. So I'm thinking maybe we could go for sunflowers again. We could go for something else. Maybe even go for, you know what? Let's go with some sacred grape seeds. How about that? I think that would be a great addition to this garden. So we're gonna get some sacred grapes. I'm going to make sure that I have them on my hotbar, and I'm going to place them. Now, in this case, I'm kind of looking at where the stick is sticking out, and I think having the sticks face the aisle is fine. I'm gonna settle on that.
I cannot build.
But then I have to spin it around so that it's facing the opposite direction. There we go. And now those should grow in very nicely. Now, I could put in more of those grape seeds here in a row. I've done that before in my other garden. But I think what I'm going to do is just continue to line this edge here. There we go. And then I'm going to do something a little bit different. So now I'm going to go to garden furniture, and we're going to go with I think maybe, let's go with a brown wooden table. We're gonna put this table, well, we can put one right here. That way we're kind of in the shade, I guess, right? And then we're gonna place another one here. Put this there. So now we have our trees kind of covering our little tables, and I think I'm going to do the same thing on this side. So I'm going to place my little garden chair here, place a table, and then another garden chair here. Awesome. So now we have a nice looking outside. I think maybe for the wall here, I'm going to change the color of this wall just to kind of make it kind of fit a little better to what I'm trying to do. So maybe our estate could be something a little bit more, I don't know, lively or something. I'm trying to think how I would want this. I think maybe this is the outside wallpaper might be okay, right? And we could have, I don't know, maybe, I think maybe a couple more planters might not be a bad idea. So I'm going to go into production, medium growing plots, medium growing plot here. I'm going to grab that. I'm going to put these medium growing plots right on the corners here, right on the edges, just to be elevated and look nice. And then I'm also going to go on this side and place my garden furniture. So we're going to go with the rural garden chair, then a table. Whoops. Then a table, and then another chair.
I cannot build here.
I'm going to move this chair over slightly, make sure it's aligned correctly. I'm going to put this here, move it over slightly, place this here, and then put down another garden chair. This is perfect because now you can enter this space and there's no worry that you won't be able to get out. So that's always really nice. We could also add some lights here. So maybe we want to add a little bit of lighting. We could go with some pillar mounted lights. So I'm thinking maybe something like, I actually really like the balefire hanging lanterns. Those are probably one of my favorite outdoor lights just because of the flame, and I always thought it looked badass. But I think maybe the Gothica hanging lanterns could be cool too, or even the Esoterica ones. So I think I'm gonna go maybe with the Esoterica ones. We're gonna put a white light out just to see what that looks like a little bit, just to kind of have an idea, right? And we're gonna put them out here, and we're gonna leave Well, I mean, I could put that light here too, but it's a little bit overkill. It looks a little odd on the edge, so maybe I won't do those. But I think having them right here is okay. We can also place some lampposts. So if we want to put down a lamppost that maybe looks a little bit more like it belongs, we could put something like these on the edges here to kind of warm up this space. So I'm thinking we can just kind of have them hanging over, right? Hanging the lights over. We could also maybe do something like placing lamps like across here or on the corners even, and trying to maybe create a little pathway or archway, right? So maybe something like this. So now we have a lot of light in this walkway here. Very, very bright. So maybe these lights are a little too much. So let's get rid of these. And maybe let's get rid of these middle ones as well. We don't need to have a, you know, we're not trying to take off. It's not like a, you know, a runway for a plane. So we don't need that much lighting. But yeah, we have that. And then I think I'm also going to place some other seeds here. So we could place some sunflowers here. I like to place sunflowers a lot in the Silverlight area, just because I think that the yellow kind of looks good against the orange there. So maybe we should stick to that. I'm gonna place my flowers. So we're gonna have this first one on this corner. Actually, hold on. Let's keep a close eye. All right, so we're gonna look for the tallest one. So the tallest one is facing me right now, right? So we're gonna do this. We're gonna actually we're gonna mirror that on this side. We're gonna turn again. And now the flowers are all going to be facing different directions. They're not all going to be facing one direction, but it is going to look nice. So let's do that again. So we're going to gotta make sure the tallest one is facing me. Gonna turn, and then turn again. And then now all our flowers are going to be facing different directions. And I think I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. We didn't have too much craziness. I think something we could do though is maybe add some flowers here or add some other kind of thing. So I actually want to add some cotton seeds. So let me give myself some cotton seeds. And we're going to use those. I'm just going to place them all in a row. And then I'm going to rotate once and then have them all facing that way. I'm going to rotate them twice to have them facing this way.
This will not work.
Gotta make sure not to skip any of them. And then rotate it twice so it's facing this way. Because remember, we're on the right side now, we're not on the left side. And then now that that's done, so far so good, looking great. And I wonder if I'm able to fit more plants in. So I always like to put as many plants as I possibly can. I kind of have this habit of adding so many plants to the outdoors to the point where you could even call it possibly clutter. But I think this is probably a really good start here. I think maybe having an elevated small growing plot might not be a terrible idea for these empty areas here. So we're going to put a couple here. Or actually, we're going to put one on each corner. Let's do that. And then now that we have one on each corner, we're going to, well, actually, I think this one's a little too far over. Nope, we're good. Okay, I wasn't sure. It kind of looks like they're a little bit off from here, but I feel like once I end up in the sky, I'm going to realize that they're just fine. And I think that maybe having some roses here might not be bad. So we're going to add some blood roses. Why not? We're going to rotate twice and then do the two back ones facing that way. Before I speed up time and make sure everything is grown in, I'm going to make a couple of changes here. So notice that there's not really any lighting above these tables. So instead I'm going to take lighting, right? And we're gonna take a small rural garden lantern, and we're gonna put them right in front here, right next to the tables, so that it's easy to see, there's a little bit of light, and it's not overwhelming. So that's looking really great. We're gonna do the same thing on this side, so we have a little space here, a little bit of light, a little bit of life, not too much. And of course, actually for the walls here, we could probably add some castle wall vegetation. So maybe we could do, let's see, we can go to garden, castle wall vegetation, and I think I'm gonna go with some blood rose wallpaper, or sorry, I'm gonna go with some blood rose vegetation. And I think we can also maybe go with some blood rose pillars, and we're gonna use that to cover that side. All right, so that's looking really good. Now let's go to the lighting, and I'm going to squeeze in a couple more lights here just to add a little bit more vision, because it is a little bit too dark here at night, I think.
I cannot build here.
I think I'm gonna put them here and here. All right, now let's speed up time a little bit. All right, so now that everything's grown in, let's take a look at our beautiful garden. Wow. Wow. I mean, really, really nice. And somehow I managed to forget to place my little things here, so let me get that done. That's a little embarrassing, I'll say, but yeah, let's add some cotton here. All right, now let's try to speed up time again. Get that last little patch. Can't forget the little details like that now, can we? All right, so now that everything has grown in, let's take a look at it. We're gonna check it out from the sky first, and then we're gonna walk through. Wow, I absolutely love the way that the front of this garden came out. Really, really nice with the double archways. We got, you know, a nice little double archways here. We got our cypress trees, and now that everything's grown in, it just looks so full, so lush. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm not giving myself enough credit, but I actually I'm not very good at making gardens, you know, that's the secret, guys. So I'm kind of surprised. I'm impressed with how well this came out. I think the biggest factor here, as far as minor details, I think was probably, you know, making sure that the directions of everything look so good, because the thing is, by rotating these plants, especially these sunflowers, and having them face on the outside, it just makes it look like a big bush. You know, it kind of gives it more of a fuller look when they're all together like that, and it just makes it look bigger. So, you know, if we can do little visual tricks like that, then so be it. I could also add maybe another strip here of, you know, some plants if I really wanted to. But you know, we don't have to do that. That's just like an extra thing if we decide to do that. But oh man, I absolutely love the way that this garden turned out. Very nice, very cool, and yeah, I'm very happy with this one. So between the lighting, the layout, the trees, the choices of trees and things like that, you know, I just think that this is absolutely gorgeous. All right, so let's move on to the third example. All right, so for this next garden example, we're going to do a long garden. Now, this isn't totally uncommon. You see this all the time when you see castles with like a weird sliver of land. So like, for example, if I go to the map and we take a look, there's a few plots out there, probably most famously this one right here, that just kind of has like this really thin sliver or slice, and it can be a little difficult to make your garden for plots like that. So I wanted to give at least one example where the garden plot is just long instead of wide. That way, you know, you guys can just kind of do that wherever you want. All right, so let's get started. We're going to use, for this example, a garden fence instead of hedges on the outside. So we're going to go to garden, fences, and then we're going to choose our rural garden fencing. And I think I'm gonna go with the rural garden fence that is white. So we're gonna choose that. We're gonna do the same thing on this side. We're just gonna build that up. Oh, that's a mistake. We're gonna build that up. Gonna take that away, And then we're going to put down our
This will not
exit,
work.
which for some reason I'm blocking. All right. So we're gonna put down, actually, let's, let me put a random door in here. I think a random door could work out, right? That could look great. So far so good, looking great. I'm gonna open up this fence so I can just get a nice little visual look at it. And there's a few things I could do. I think the first thing I'm gonna do is actually change out my foundation. You know what? We're gonna use the terracotta tiles. I haven't used the terracotta tiles in a while, and I really, really like these. Part of the reason why I like these tiles so much is because of the nice, rich, reddish color that comes from them. And it fits really well with this particular grass, so I feel like it'd be a waste not to use it. So let's give it a try. Let's see what it looks like and see what we got. So I'm going to make the outside of this castle be kind of wooden. I'm going to replace this door. Maybe I'm going to put... let's do something like this, right? Probably one of my favorite doors that they added in the 1.0 update. And I'm going to grab some other things. So I'm thinking maybe we can go with some hedges. So I'm going to grab, I'm going to go to garden, then hedges, and then go to the low hedge. And then with this low hedge, I'm going to try and kind of wiggle my way to a nice garden setup. All right, so we're right on the corner here, right on the edge, right? And we can, I think I'll be able to probably get this going, looking good. All right, so I got it right on the fence so that it's not like going too far past the fence, if that makes sense, but it does make sense if it does like kind of spill over a little bit. So that is a-okay. I'm going to switch these hedges up. And actually, I'm going to do something a little bit different. I think I'm going to remove this hedge and this hedge, and we're going to put the taller hedges there. So we're going to put this here. I'm going to take this away. We're going to get this other tall hedge because we want to have... I don't know why that one won't disappear on me. We want to have a little bit of a difference here. So in this case, notice that the tall ends are here. We could also maybe do something to kind of change things up over here. I'm thinking maybe this could be good. We could remove this, maybe do another one on this side. And now it just kind of slopes down and it has a nice little symmetrical look to it. So we're just going to do the same exact thing on the other side. And now we have a nice little run here. We have a nice little run. It's kind of dynamic. It's not, you know, it's not too flat. It's not too, you know, one-dimensional, as some might say. We could change these up and make them something else if we really wanted to, but I want to be able to see the beautiful garden while also keeping people out of it. So I think this is a good compromise. Now, something else to keep in mind is we might want to have like an extra pathway or something kind of going on top of this if we really wanted to, but in this case we're not going to, so we're going to do something a little bit more simple. I'm going to put a garden fountain right here. We're going to try and align this as best as we can. Now if I walk over, I know that it's in the right spot, so that's how we do our measuring, right? I'm just eyeballing it, but if I walk over, it's perfectly aligned. Great. Maybe we want a little bit of shade, though, for our guests. You know, we are vampires. Maybe we want a little bit more shade. You know, no particular reason, I guess, right? And we're going to put our trees kind of in between the two bumps here. Let's go with a little bit of variety. So let's try some colors. I think autumn birch and autumn aspen both would be really cool. So let's go with our autumn aspen as well. So we're going to take the aspen trees and we're going to place, let's go with the one right. Let's see if we can get a good angle. We'll go with one here. So I'm going to try and connect these all together. So we're gonna do kind of an enclosed pathway for this garden. There we go. So now we have our nice little enclosed pathway, right? Looking good so far. And we're going to add some shrubbery. So we can add, well, since these are thicker trellises, we need to use the correct ones. So we're gonna use, we could use something like this and just cover it with, you know, some shroomies. We can throw a lot of lush greens. We can throw some you know, kind of like these flowers in between. What's interesting is that I can actually place them in between, even though there's no like single trellis here. I could actually place them in between because there's two of them. It's kind of a weird bug, but it's kind of nice to see. So I just thought I should mention that for any of you guys who are maybe kind of wondering like what to do with that. But yeah, the only bad thing is that if we do this, it's not going to allow us to place it fully, so that's something to kind of consider. But I just thought it was worth mentioning that that is a thing. I'm gonna use the regular green lush trellis toppings here. Ooh, looks like we have a little mistake here with these two being too far apart from each other. So it's little things like this that, you know, you kind of have to gauge, kind of have to fix as you go a little bit. You know, nothing I do is really perfect, so I try my best, guys. I'm trying my best. We also have, let's add some more of these. Make sure they're on each one properly. Boom. So now we have a nice little tunnel, little passageway kind of thing, right? Very nice, very cute. And if we really wanted to, we could add some other stuff here. So maybe we want to add, well, we have our fountains, right? So maybe we want to add something like bird baths or something. So we could add like a bird bath right here in between. We're going to move them inward. We're going to put them next to the water fountain. There we go. And we can also plant a bunch of seeds and do whatever we want. This is a really simple kind of setup, you know, if you don't want people having access to the garden, but you want a nice little looking garden, that could be a good step. And I think maybe the other thing we could do is we could add some lights. So I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go to the, actually, I'm going to see if I can jump through here. Okay, great. So I'm going to go and use some walls. So we're going to go to castle, then walls, and then castle pillar. And I'm going to take these pillars and we're actually going to make some use out of them. So I'm going to put my pillars in between here. And of course we have the end pillar. And there. And then we're also going to use the same wallpaper we have on the other side here. So that is the wooden wallpaper. So I'm just going to quickly get the wallpaper done on these pillars. And then we're going to add some lighting. I think I am going to go with the basilica ones just for this example. I think I like them a little better for this build. So I'm going to put that there, put that there, and maybe do another one here. Now, when we get to the edge here, we have to put our lanterns facing outward like this. And that's, you know, a little bit of lighting. Now, it's still going to be kind of dark in this tunnel, so we have to solve that issue next. I'm actually going to add more of these posts. I know that sounds weird, but, you know, hear me out. I'm going to put a couple of posts in here. I'm going to mirror that, right? We're going to mirror these. And then we're going to add our wallpaper. There we go. And then we're going to add some lighting. So we're going to put the pillar mounted lights again. We're going to use the basilica hanging lanterns, and we're going to use the regular kind of dull light, but we're going to face these inward. And that way, when you're in the tunnel, there's a little bit of lighting for you. So that's how we're going to get our lighting. We can kind of drop these in through the tunnels. Not too dark, not too light. Just right, I would say. I think I'm going to add extra pillars, though, on the insides here, possibly. So I think what I'll do is I'll add maybe a wall here, a wall here. I'm going to go all the way to the other side and add another couple walls here and there. And then we're going to add our wallpapers. And then we're going to continue with the hanging lanterns. Now for this side, I'm going to leave them kind of open so I can see through. As you notice, there is a gap here kind of because of the way that the lighting works around my body. It kind of removes whatever's around, right? But because we covered the whole path, we don't have to worry about inconsistencies like that. And also, I left enough space here that we can open this door and it doesn't overlap, which is really nice. So we got that going. So let's go to lighting, hanging lanterns, basilica hanging lantern, and we're gonna do the same thing again on both sides of the aisle. There we go. So now we have a nice little setup looking really, really great. Just beautiful. You know, the inside is nice and chill. There's nothing too crazy. You could use some glitching techniques to get chairs or like benches in here underneath the trellises. I'm not gonna do that, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. And then, of course, all we have to do is figure out what we're gonna do for this section here, because it still looks a little bit empty. So for this part, I want this to kind of look a little bit more like a showcase. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna place some garden hedges, but instead I'm going to use the planters. Let's do a high planter right here. And then some medium planters right here. Just to kind of create a little bit of a showpiece. Maybe some trellises or something. I feel like this needs a little bit more character to it or something. So I'm going to put this here and there. And you know what? We're going to change the color of these. We're going to make them white. And we're gonna add our coverage here, and then maybe add our little toppings. So I think I'm gonna put 2 green ones down here and then an orange one up here. So that looks pretty neat. We're gonna do the same thing on the other side. And the cool thing is that because these are on grass, I could just plant a bunch of other stuff underneath if I really wanted to. Or I could leave it alone. I think in this case, I'm going to actually change the flooring so that this area doesn't look so empty. So in this case, I'm going to take my rough floor and I'm going to place the rough floor right here. And I'm going to place rough floor right here. And it will only be in those 2 areas. So that's going to be really nice. And yeah, let's speed up time and see what it looks like. Alright, so now that it's done, let's take a look through our garden. So we have a nice little kind of entrance here. Not too bad. And boom, we're back into the house. And oh, look, another nice little entranceway. We go through and looking great. I really, really like the way this came out. In fact, I absolutely love it. I'm going to just try and get rid of these little stones here, driving me nuts. I hate when the little rocks grow back. You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so let's go into the sky and see what it looks like. Wow. So from above, this looks really nice. Really simple, but really nice, really cohesive. So yeah, I really like this example here. This is example number 3. So example number 3 looking really, really nice. All right, and now we're going to do example number 4. For this example, I've decided to kind of go with a more Gloomrot looking feel or Gloomrot-ish theme, if that makes any sense. I guess I could add, you know, maybe the doors that look so good. But yeah, so what I want to do is I want to start off with the hedges. And I think I'm going to start off with hedges that are maybe a more like dark color, maybe like a duller color. I think maybe something like this might be okay. And actually, now that I look at it more, I don't think I particularly like these hedges being this tall on the corners. So I think I'm going to put down some shorter ones. I'm using a different color hedge than I am the flooring here, and I'm going to be interchanging the heights on the corners so that the corners kind of stand out a little bit more and look a little bit different. I'm also going to add a little arch hedge here. All right, and I'm going to mirror the same exact thing on the other side here. Actually, I think I'm going to add an arch over here. I'm not going to add any more entrances or exits. I think this is fine. What I will do though is maybe close out the corners. So we haven't used any statues in our builds yet, so I think I definitely want to add that somewhere on here. I'm going to go to garden structures, then Ancient Symphony Blood Fountain. Now I have to make sure that it's aligned. I'm looking at the triangles to make sure that everything is aligned properly, right? If I go to this side, it looks like the triangles are all set up correctly as well. I'm gonna spin the fountain because it's facing the wrong direction. Now that we have this fountain set up, it looks really, really nice. I think I'm also going to maybe put something around the castle heart. Maybe this new Ancient Symphony garden fencing. I have not used this yet. And I think it would look really nice around the castle heart, and you know what, it kind of does. I could maybe remove these archways instead if I really wanted to, and then I'm gonna put the little fencing there instead. And you know what, let's do the same thing right here as well. I'm gonna remove that, and I'm just gonna put the little fence in there instead. So I'm going to place a pillar here and a pillar here, and I think I'm also going to add some fencing. So we're gonna go to garden fences, and we're going to add maybe an opening area here, an opening area here, and then a closed fence area here and there. And I think I'm also going to bring the pillars in line with the front of the building as well. So let's go to castle wallpapers, and then I'm going to choose my ebonite stone wallpaper. That's the wallpaper I used on the outside here of the building, for those of you wondering. And now we have a nice little setup. I think I am going to add some lighting though. I want something that maybe looks pretty cool. Maybe some balefire sconces wouldn't hurt. And I think I'll go with the green one to match the windows. So far so good. I think the next part I want to do is use a few of these statues and things to kind of add a little bit more variety or visual variety to the area. But before I do that, I'm going to change the flooring. So I'm going to go to foundation, and then I'm going to go to basic flooring. I'm going to choose my my dark green flooring, and I'm going to place that here. So let's see what that looks like. Okay, so this looks a little weird, mostly because for some reason the flooring did not adjust to the actual color palette. So I might have to use a different kind of flooring here. Maybe this one might make more sense. So let me try that. There we go. So that looks a little bit better. I think that's going to work out just fine. We're gonna go to decorations, then statues, and then I'm going to go to the black marble gargoyles, and I think I'm going to use I'm thinking maybe this one could go here. Another one could go directly across, maybe. There we go. I'm going to use the ebonite ones. And I think I'm going to go with the gargoyles here. I got to figure out what kind of gargoyle I want to use, though. I think this one might be good. And they're all kind of called the same thing, but well, for the most part, this one is the eldest crouching gargoyle. The ones I placed on this side symmetrically, those are the eldest dueling gargoyles. I could do something symmetrical on the other side here, but I don't think I will. I think instead I'm going to maybe place a different kind of gargoyle. So maybe something like this one, the eldest agonized gargoyle, looks pretty cool. So I think I'm going to place that right over here. And then I'm going to also change out my flooring again. We're going to go with the mossy cobblestones. And I'm going to use the darkest of greens. There we go. So far, so good. And I think maybe what I'll do next is add some kind of pathing. Just so that we're able to get from one part to another. I have to decide a little bit on what the pathing should look like here. Now I could go with the well, I could go with the garden gravel pathing. I think the gravel pathing might actually look a little bit better here compared to some other pathings. just for this particular build, but I'm not entirely certain if that's really what I want to do here. So I have to kind of proceed with caution. If you notice, the statues will cover up or fill up a space here, so it's not, you know, possible. So I'm gonna have to move these statues over a little bit, which is a-okay. There's nothing wrong with that, right? Move it just a tad. There we go. And then I'm gonna also add my little T-shape here, and then we're gonna go and move this to create these little pathways. We're going to use our little sliver of pathway here. Do the same thing on this side with the T-shapes. And then for these, we're also going to have our little 90-degree angles. Boom. So now we have our 90-degree angles, we have our gravel pathing, and we have a nice looking start of a garden. And I think I'm going to add more lights. So I think I'm going to pull out the balefire sconces again, but I'm going to put them on the other side here of this build. If I were to go back and use these pillars, I could use pillars here to kind of take place of some of these shapes. Like, so for example, this transition from like a taller to a shorter bush, I could just remove this square bush here and just place this down if I really wanted to, just to add a little bit of extra light. And you know what, I think I might. So I'm gonna remove this. We're gonna place these pillars down. I'm gonna remove this one. I'm gonna place this pillar down. I'm going to remove, whoops, I'm gonna remove the ones on each side here and also place pillars on those spots. And then we're going to go to wallpapers and we're going to place the ebonite stone wallpaper on all of these pillars. All right, cool. So now that that's done, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out so far. This garden is looking absolutely fabulous in some ways, I guess. But we still need a little bit of decoration. We still need a little bit more visual variety, as I like to say. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to decoration, furniture, sofas, and I'm actually going to use the dignity bench. We're going to use this dignity bench. I like the fact that the bench is kind of like a wooden texture. You can use this outside without it looking too weird, I think. So I'm going to place that bench right over there. And I think another step here could also be to potentially place flowers or something over here. There's a lot of stuff I could potentially do, but I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself just yet. So we're going to place our garden bench right over here. I think for this next part, I'm going to place some garden planters. So we can try and do some planters cores. I think I'm going to go with the noble tall planter. And I'm going to put maybe one over here and one over here, kind of equally spacing them out. And then I'm gonna take the noble planter, just the second height tier, and we're going to place it in between but forward. For the last part, I'm gonna go here and I'm gonna maybe make another maybe a royal brazier could look really good here. I could also use the balefire brazier, and you know what, I think that's gonna look more appropriate here considering the height of all the other stuff. So I'm going to push it out by one, and we're gonna have our brazier over here. I think maybe if I press the brazier a little bit closer, that might look a little better. I could kind of condense this a little bit so as not to like overshadow. And you know what, this deer is driving me nuts, so he's dead. Okay. All right, now that we got rid of the deer, let me get back on track here. I'm going to go to garden, and then I'm going to go to planters parts, and I'm gonna choose what kind of planter I'd like to put on top. I'm gonna go with a I think I'm gonna go with a dark green to match the floor. I think having like two squigglies here doesn't look too bad, and maybe like two pointy ones down here doesn't look too bad. I think that looks really nice. It's a nice little arrangement, I think. And we could maybe squish in some trellises on the sides here just so it doesn't look so empty. So maybe we can add a couple of trellises. trying to decide how far back I want the trellis to be. I think maybe having it go back one. I don't know. Yeah, I think having it go back one might be okay. And then we're just gonna push it back. And then I'm gonna maybe go for the morass covering. And I could leave it like that, or I could add something else. So I'm thinking I could put in maybe some trippy shrooms. Well, actually, I need to make the little bottom part. So I'm going to go to production, growing plots, small growing plots, and then I'm going to place one underneath here. Let's push it back a little bit. And same thing with this. And then we're going to place our little pieces. There we go. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave this as is. I really like the way that this looks, but I feel like this area is missing something. Like, I feel like it needs a little bit more pizzazz. So maybe if I really wanted to, I could add something like some gargoyles to the sides here, right? If I add a gargoyle here, though, it's going to kind of overlap with that fence. So maybe I want to do it just on the one side. And you know what? I think I'll do it like this. And I think there's like a opposite facing gargoyle somewhere. No, it doesn't look like it. Yeah, so I'm going to have to... Actually, you know, I could work with this and then put another one over here. We'll just double the same gargoyle. I could also add a noble tower trellis. I haven't done those yet, so actually maybe I'll put it here instead, like on the edges. You know what? I think I'm just gonna put the two trellises right here. I'm gonna use the morass on this one as well. And I think I'm gonna leave that alone for now. I do want to maybe add something else here. So I could put maybe a couple of rows of vegetation. So I'm thinking maybe I could take, well, I could put the large growing plots in a row here. And I think I'm gonna maybe try and rotate them so that the tallest piece is facing forward. I like the way this looks. And I think that's gonna look just fine. We'll have a little pop of yellow here, which is gonna look really nice. I could add like another trellis. I'm thinking maybe I might add a noble trellis right here, right on the edge here, and then I'm gonna add some morass. And then I think I am going to add more production. Sorry, I'm gonna add more small growing plots underneath it. So we're gonna put two side by side here, just to add a little pop of color, a little bit more vibrance. But in this case, I'm going to plant my shrooms. So we have the trippy shrooms again, and I think I'm pretty satisfied with how this turned out. I think I'm gonna leave this alone. Let's check out this side and figure out if we want to do anything a little bit different. I'm gonna use the noble trellis pagoda. We're gonna put that down here, and I'm gonna get the morass again, and we're just gonna put it right on top. Well, I could use the indoor furniture as well, so I can go to decoration, furniture, chairs, and then I'm going to choose the rustic chair. And I'm going to put a couple of rustic chairs right here. So those chairs are going to be just chilling, right? And I think maybe... Well, actually, I could put them here. So let's do that. Let's put a rustic chair right over here and another rustic chair right over here. I could put maybe the bench that I had earlier over here instead. So we got some chairs, we got some benches. The only thing we're missing now is some lighting, so I think I'm gonna go for the balefire brazier again, or I could go for the chemical light podium. And I think the chemical light podium might be a little bit nicer in this case, because we don't have anything that's like super crazy or super like, you know, out there in color. So I think maybe putting them on each corner might not be the worst of ideas. Let's see if I can move this over. There we go. So now, let me make sure that it's Just making sure it's aligned. Okay, it looks good. The only thing is that if I take the fence and I try to open it this way, it's going to overlap that lamp, and I don't particularly enjoy that. So I just gotta remember to open it this way, not the other way. But yeah, I think this will be fine, and I kind of like the way it looks. So I think this more subtle look in this part of the garden might be nice. There's a little less shrubbery here though, so I think I might want to add a couple of trellises. Maybe I'm gonna go to garden planters. I'm gonna choose the small trellises, and I'm gonna put them one on each side, and then we're gonna put the morass in there, and then we're going to go to production, small growing plots, and we're gonna place the small growing plot here and here. And then I'm also going to plant some trippy shrooms, because why not? I could also put down some trees here if I really want to. So I'm thinking I'm going to put a tree right here on the edge, and then I'm going to place some garden furniture. So maybe I could place a little noble garden table right here. And then I could put a noble garden chair here. Make sure I align this correctly, and then I'll put another one here. Let's go with a gloomy sapling. And we'll take that gloomy sapling, put it on our hotbar, and then I'm going to rotate it so that the hangover is over the table. And once this grows, it's going to look really, really nice. That's the only tree I have so far, though, so I need to create something a little bit different. I could also change the flooring here on this particular area, so I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to Castle, Foundation, Basic Flooring, Mossy Cobblestones, and I'm going to choose the dark... sorry, I'm going to choose the gray. Or actually, was it the dark green? I can't remember if it was the gray or the dark green. Oh, it was the dark green. I'm sorry. We're going to choose the dark green. I think I'm going to go to Decoration, Furniture, Sofas, and I'm going to put down this little bench here. And then once that bench is placed, I think I'll also maybe add a couple of chemist theses. I'm going to put maybe one right over here and one right over here. And now, I mean, that looks pretty neat, I think. It's going to have its nice little look, and you can look at the little bodies floating in there as you're chilling. We're going to go to production, growing plots, and we're going to place maybe I'd say 2 rows here of plague breeders. So I'm going to rotate this so that the tallest one is facing me. And then I'm going to place these down. Very nice. And I think maybe a couple more lights might help. So I'm going to go to lighting, pillar mounted lights, and I'm going to choose the balefire hanging lantern. I'm going to go with the green option, of course. I'm going to add some more on the sides here. That's the whole reason why we added these extra pillars, after all. And it looks really nice. So this light is kind of close to this statue. So I think what I'm going to do is actually rotate the statue inward like this. Alright, so let's speed up time and see what it looks like. Alright, and this is the final result of what we've put together. Overall, this is a really simple layout. Remember, this all started with like a plus shape. So let's go up in the sky and see what it looks like. All right, so looking really good. I really like the way that this turned out. I like that it's not symmetrical, so we have a little bit of visual variety going on here. We have a lot of different stuff happening. The only real symmetry we have are these 2 like gargoyle statues, and they're not even the same statues. So yeah, this kind of works out nicely, actually. And if we just tour really quick, we could see our little chirpy shrooms and things like that. So I really like the way that this particular garden feels. So yeah, I think we'll move on to the last example. Last but not least, we have this final example. I'm going to use a really dark, almost dying looking grass here. But I do think I'm also going to change out the foundation. So I think I'm going to have maybe some mossy cobblestones, and we'll go with the kind of grayish color. So something to note is that this particular build is a perfect square, so it's a 5x5 square. So in this case, we're going to maybe do a little bit more on the front here, on the front of the castle. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put maybe some kind of flooring, or maybe not flooring. I don't think flooring was the word I wanted to use here, but we're going to do a little bit more on the front here. And I think I'm also going to maybe create like a little staircase or something to kind of, you know, make a little roof here. And we're going to add some stables. So this is going to be something that I'm sure some of you guys are going to enjoy, especially because, you know, stables don't seem to be easy to find nowadays or easy to put together. Until we get some added to the game, hopefully at some point, maybe, possibly. We're not going to have that, so I'm going to put down the foundation tiles. I'm just going to put these tiles down like this just for the sake of this tutorial, but ideally I would want like maybe something up here that's a little bit more visually appealing. Maybe put some shrubbery, maybe put some furniture and stuff like that, but I'm not going to decorate that for this tutorial, because this tutorial is mostly focusing on you know, just the garden area, so we're going to work on that. So I'm gonna put down, let's go with some windows. So I think I'm gonna place maybe these windows here just to cover that up for now. And maybe we're gonna use a wallpaper like the we could use the Ancient Symphony wallpaper if we really wanted to. We could use the square ones or the round ones. I actually prefer the round ones, so I think I'm gonna go with that. And then we're going to make these into horse stables. So I'm going to take, I'm going to go to garden, I'm going to go to fences, and then I'm going to go to Ancient Symphony garden fencing. We're going to use this fencing again because I really like it. Or if not, we could use something like this. But yeah, let's go with this. And we're going to put 4 fences here. In between the stalls, we're going to place some walls here, so we're going to go with the barrier entrance block in our case. We could also use the prison entrance block, but I don't really think that's necessary here, or that it visually fits, so we're just going to do that. And that's how the walls are going to be separated. So now you have your horse stables already done. You don't even have to think much about that. We're going to add some decorations, so we're going to put some pillar ornaments. We're gonna go with some flags, and I'm thinking we could probably put out maybe something like this, or maybe something that sticks out a little bit like these. So I'm a little on the fence as to how I want to go about this, but I think maybe having the ones face forward like this might be a good idea. And I'm gonna go with blue, so we're gonna go with the blue ones. All right, now so far so good. The next step here would be to maybe add a lining to the walkway. So in this case, I'm going to put down maybe some shrubbery. So I'm going to go to garden, then hedges, then garden hedge maze wall. And I think I'm going to go with maybe something a little bit rounder even. So I'm going to try and place this as best as I can without ruining the edge here. And I think I'm going to do the same thing right over here. I'm going to try and place this as best as I can. I think this is fine. I don't know. I think that's good enough. So I'm going to switch this to like that dying gray color. Someone forgot to water their hedges, I guess. And we're gonna go with this side, and then maybe put an arch here, or actually I could just put a fence here instead. So I'm gonna go to garden, fences, and then place the Ancient Symphony garden gate right here. So we have a little bit of visual variety going on. Actually, I think I'm gonna add the tall hedges with holes right on here, because I haven't used these hedges yet. So let's do a couple of them here. And then I'm going to place down my tall hedge. And let's do the exact same thing on the other side. I'm not going to add anything to interrupt the smooth flow of this outside pattern. I think it looks fine the way it does. So now that we have some pathing here for the horses, I think I'm going to add maybe like a stall flooring. So we're going to go to foundation, and I like to use the workshop flooring for this. So I think the longboards probably look best. And I'm gonna do that. So now we have longboards in there, and we also would probably want to have some kind of lighting or something as well. I think I'm actually going to add some sconces on the side here, maybe something like this Gothica candle sconce, and I'm gonna place them right over here in the insides, facing inward. And you know what? I think I'm actually going to leave that alone. I think that looks really nice. I think I'm going to add like a little feeding station for the horses. Let's use the noble trellis core here. I'm going to put one right here and one here. They're all going to be facing the same direction. So the next thing I'm going to do is add like a water station. So I'm going to go to garden structures and then pick out my water well. And I'm going to put my water well right here on the edge. And I think I might place another one on the other side as well. I'm just going to rotate it twice. And boom. Okay, so for this next part, I think I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to go to the foundation tiles. And I'm going to go for mossy cobblestones. And I'm going to grab this like dead looking one. And I'm going to move that here. And we're going to make these. Actually, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to remove these and I'm going to place these in the center of their tiles. This one's a little high up. What about this one? This one's also a little high up. Okay, and then I'm going to grab the fences and we're going to put ancient symphony fences around the trees. Just to create a little bit more visual variety, as I like to say. I might actually add more of these fences. So I think I'm going to put one here and one here. And on the other side of these fences, I'm going to maybe move the water over here. So that way it's not blocking the path. All right, so now that I've put down my fencing, I'm going to place down some more stuff. So I think I'm going to put down some more growing plots. So I'm going to put, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5. And we're going to do the same thing on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I think for this particular garden, you know what? Let me give myself some willow saplings. So we're gonna get the weeping willow. I'm gonna place that seed over here. And I'm going to rotate it maybe facing, I don't know, it's kind of hard to decide which way I want it to face. But I'm gonna have this facing inward. I'm gonna rotate it twice, face that one kind of facing inward as well. I think I'm gonna go with some blood rose seeds here, just for, you know, a little bit more visual pop. Let me make sure that they're facing the way that I want them to face. So I want them leaning toward me. I'm gonna place these in here, and when these grow in, they're gonna look really nice.
This will not work.
It's gonna be like a big rose bush. We're gonna rotate twice and do the same thing on this side. And now that that's done, I think the next step will be to kind of add some furniture. It looks a little unoccupied, one might say. So I'm going to go to garden furniture, and then we're going to choose the noble garden bench again. I'm going to take this bench and I'm going to place it back here and over here. What I could also do is maybe add something here, like some kind of trellis or some kind of shrubbery of some kind. So I think in my case, I'm going to go to garden, garden planters, and I'm going to do like an up and down kind of shape here. So with this one, I'm going to start off really tall, and then I'm going to move this one here as well, and then we're going to go with one that's really small in the center. And I think that will look really nice. We're going to do the same exact thing on the other side. I think I'm going to go with the dyeing color again. I keep calling it the dyeing color, but you know, I should probably be more clear that it's like the gray colored bush. I could add some lighting, so I think maybe something like a lamppost might not be bad. A noble garden lamppost is looking really appealing right now, so maybe I want to add something like that. So I'm gonna do that on this side and do that on this side. I could tuck in the lamppost a little bit, actually, just to be closer to the bench. With these 3 spheres, I feel like they're not standing out enough, so I might just change them or change their color to like a little bit more of like a green. I could go with like a brighter green just to make it pop a little bit more, or we could just choose like this weird like sour color. But I think overall, we could also do something like this where we use like kind of like the orange color just to add a little bit of a visual pop. And you know what? I think I am liking that. So let's just implement that. Actually, you know what? We haven't used the rural tower trellises yet. So I think I'm going to place one on both sides here. So maybe one right here and one right here. And we're going to use, in this case, maybe the ivy. We could also maybe want to put out some mist makers out here because of all the sunlight that we'll be exposed to. So we can go to production, dominance, and then mist brazier. We can place a couple of mist braziers here, like maybe put one right here. And maybe put another one like right here. And that could be a nice little detail. We could also maybe place trees here instead if we really wanted to. That's also a viable option, but you know what? Let's grow everything in and just see what it looks like. All right, so now we have our willow trees kind of looking a little bit willowy. But I really like the willows and how they ended up looking here. Now I think about it, we haven't actually placed any teleporters anywhere in any of our builds, which is wild to me. So let's go to production, teleporters, and then I'm going to go to the castle waygate, and we're going to put this waygate right over here. That way we have, you know, some way of teleporting or transporting ourselves. But yeah, I think this looks pretty good. All right, so now it's daytime. If we take a look, we have our little mist braziers doing the thing that they're supposed to be doing, providing mist. And if I go and I fly up into the sky here, this is looking really, really nice. And I'm actually pretty happy with how this turned out. If I really wanted to, I could maybe get rid of these coffins, and I could put down some more of the growing plots. So I could put down more trees if I really want to. So I think I'm actually going to do that here, and I'm going to take this as an opportunity to kind of cover up the flooring there as well. And I think I'm going to place a couple more willow trees. All right, let's speed up time and see what it looks like. And here we go. So this is what it finally looks like, the final product of our hard work, of our blood, sweat, and tears all going into this final build. Now remember, this part up here, I'm not going to decorate for this example, but you could do like a nice little viewing area here. You could have a nice little look down, so you can look down at the garden and be like, wow, what a nice little garden, you know? Just like little things like that. I mean, I could have added more plants and things here if I really wanted to, but I didn't want the space to look too cluttered for this example. So yeah, I hope that you guys found this guide useful. So let me know what you guys thought of these 5 different examples as far as the builds go. Which one was your favorite? Which one do you think you might implement in some of your castles? Let me know in the comments below. For those of you who don't know, my name is Xolo Q. I'm a Xoloese Quaintly Reaper and Guide to the Underworld. I stream 3 times a week on Twitch, Kick, and YouTube, and you can find a large amount of vrising content on my channel, so make sure to leave leave a like, share, and subscribe for more vrising content. Oh, and don't forget to hit the bell notification so you don't miss anything. Anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day, and as always, Xolo out.